At 3:47 a.m., alarms blare inside a tech fortress. A cyberattack threatens a $300 million zero-cent satellite deal, but as chaos erupts, one woman, barefoot, brilliant, and in labor, refuses to stop coding. "The code's in my contractions," she says, and the world is about to watch her do the impossible. It was 3:47 in the morning. The tech crisis room at HelixCore's downtown Chicago headquarters was a wall of noise, blaring sirens, flickering monitors, and frantic voices. Dozens of engineers hunched over their stations. The temperature felt like it had risen 10 degrees from sheer panic. On screen, the red progress bar raced toward full system breach. A cyber attack was underway. Deep, fast, and brutal. The target? A classified satellite communications contract valued at $300 million United States dollars. If it collapsed, it would not just be a corporate failure. It would cripple defense communications across 3 continents. In the center of the chaos stood CEO Grant Lexington, tall, sharp-jawed, sleepless, commanding, his voice cutting through like a blade. "We have 5 minutes until full breach. I want lockdown protocols now. All eyes on Node 6. Where is the firewall response lag coming from?" Everyone moved faster. Everyone except one. In the back of the room, barefoot, perched on a wheeled office chair, sat Tessa Monroe. 33 years old, 9 months pregnant, very pregnant. She had removed her shoes somewhere around 1 o'clock in the morning. Her laptop was open. Her fingers were flying across the keyboard, furious and focused. Her face was glistening with sweat, but her expression was steel. Then, out of nowhere, her voice cut calmly through the chaos, like a whisper shouted in thunder. "Grant, my water just broke." Everything stopped. A tech assistant dropped his tablet. A monitor beeped the wrong pitch. 3 people froze mid-command. Grant turned around, confused. "What?" Tessa pressed her palms into the table to steady herself. A small puddle began to spread under her chair. She winced, closed her eyes, and breathed in sharply through her nose. Someone stammered. Someone call an ambulance, get her to a hospital." Tessa's eyes opened, blazing. She pointed at the screen. "Do that after I fix line 73, the code's in my contractions." "I stop now. We lose the satellites." There was silence. Even Grant did not know what to say. He stepped forward, slowly. "You are in labor." Tessa smirked through clenched teeth. "Your timing sucks, Lexington. Now stop staring and reroute the input vector like I told you." A young engineer beside her whispered, "She is coding, while literally giving birth." And she was. Somehow, through the pain, through the pressure, through the screams of the room and the growing urgency of her body, Tessa Monroe kept typing. The breach timer ticked down. 4 minutes, then 3. Sweat dripped down her temple. Her breath hitched. She was working one-handed now, the other gripping the edge of the desk. The command line failed. She cursed, then retyped. Her keystrokes blurred, code compiled. Another contraction hit, this one strong enough to make her knees buckle if she had been standing. Grant turned to his second in command. "Theo, we cannot let her do this." But Theo, normally the first to crack a joke, just whispered in awe, "We also cannot stop her." Tessa let out a breathless laugh as she hit enter. "I did not come here to have a baby, but if we are saving satellites and pushing out a person, I am going to do both on my terms." And with that, while the world around her melted into alarms and countdowns, Tessa Monroe kept going. Because somewhere in her pain was the answer. 2 weeks earlier. The Monroe apartment was not large. It was barely 800 square feet. The walls were off-white, the floors scratched from years of wear, and the windows fogged on rainy mornings. But somehow it felt brighter than any mansion. The laughter echoed louder. The air was filled with purpose. Tessa Monroe, 33, single mother, brilliant in a way that never needed attention, sat cross-legged on the carpet, sorting through broken USB drives and half-cracked Raspberry Pi boards. She wore a threadbare Nirvana t-shirt and ripped jeans, her auburn hair twisted up in a lazy bun. Her fingers moved fast, soldering with precision between sips of iced coffee. Her glasses kept sliding down her nose. She pushed them up without thinking. From across the room, her daughter, Lila, 10 years old and already 2 grades ahead in math, hunched over a chessboard and an open laptop. She wore polka dot socks and a hoodie that read, "I void unit." "I beat it again," Lila said proudly, not looking up. "Beat what?" Tessa replied. "The CAPTCHA. Twice. With regex patterns." Tessa grinned. "Proud of you. You are officially smarter than half the internet." Their apartment was a hacker's wonderland. Whiteboards filled with encryption puzzles, Lego towers repurposed as antenna holders, Wi-Fi routers modified into test nodes. The fridge had magnets shaped like computer chips. Their TV remote was held together with duct tape and a soldered capacitor. It worked. Mostly. By day, Tessa worked full-time as an IT support specialist at Lila's middle school. By night, she freelanced as a penetration tester, testing corporate systems for vulnerabilities. Legally, most of the time. Once upon a time, she was more than that. Before the baby, before the fallout. She had been one of the youngest lead analysts in cyber defense history. Her work had shielded defense contractors, medical networks, and entire elections from compromise. Until one day, 6 months pregnant, her husband had looked at her belly, her ambition, her fire, and walked out. He left a note and took her laptop. Tessa vanished from the industry the same week. No press, no explanation, just gone. Now she lived for her daughter, her tiny chaotic genius, her mirror. Lila loved puzzles more than playdates. She thought algebra was like poetry but with rules. She asked questions like, "If I reroute mom's login credentials through a test sandbox, does that mean I am technically her boss?" Tessa always answered the same, "Only if you are paying rent." Their life was small, but sharp. They hacked together, played chess over waffles, and built trust with code and compassion. Then came the email. A small community hackathon for mothers and daughters hosted by a local tech incubator. Lila begged to enter. They coded a system that identified phishing links through emoji patterns. It was clever, ridiculous, and brilliant. They won first place. And with it, a prize no one expected. A behind-the-scenes VIP tour of Helix Corp, one of the largest cybersecurity firms in the United States, run by billionaire CEO Grant Lexington. When Tessa heard the name, she almost did not go. Grant Lexington was famous in her circles. Loud, relentless, always chasing the next contract. The face of modern tech dominance. His company was rumored to power defense grid communications, top-secret satellites, and half the internet backbone. Tessa had once written a white paper his engineers still cited. But she went for Lila. On the day of the tour, Lila wore her future Hackerween shirt and whispered, "So which one is the stressed rich guy with the perfect teeth?" Tessa looked toward the glass mezzanine where Grant stood surrounded by executives. "That one," she said with a small smirk. Grant never looked down at them, he never noticed. But Lila noticed everything, including the fact that her mother's hands trembled when she saw the interface code Helix Corp was testing. "Mom," she had whispered, "that algorithm has holes. Big ones." Tessa shushed her. "We are guests. We smile, we nod, we stay invisible." But fate had a different plan. And 2 weeks later, her water would break, in the middle of saving the company that never saw her coming. The Helix Corp headquarters rose like a sleek silver monolith against the Chicago skyline. At 4 o'clock in the morning, it was unusually awake. Every monitor was alive. Every corridor buzzed. Inside the 13th floor operations wing, Grant Lexington stood in front of the command wall. He was clean-cut, sharp-suited, barely concealing the tension in his jaw. This was not just another client review, it was a multi-country satellite comms demo, worth $300 million. Global defense officials were dialing in within the hour. 10 minutes until Sandbox go live, an analyst reported. "Copy," Grant replied, checking his watch. "Get ready to load the secure key matrix." He turned and gave Theo, a longtime friend and head of security, a half grin. "If this lands, we are going to dinner in the Maldives." Theo snorted. "Assuming your precious AI does not crash the stock market first." Grant chuckled. It was the kind of easy confidence that came from years of winning. His company had never been breached, until that moment. Suddenly, lights flickered. Then screens dimmed and blinked, then began to bleed red, one by one. "Sir," a technician said shakily, we have packet drift across 5 isolated nodes." Theo leaned forward. "That is not possible. This entire floor is air-gapped." "More alerts, more red." In the back, amidst a group of student observers on the intern track, Tessa Monroe blinked as the code streams scrolled faster than anyone could read. Lila beside her whispered, "Mom, that's not a test, right?" Tessa squinted. A string repeated in the terminal logs like a heartbeat. Sol XE greater than, replicate, greater than, propagate, greater than echo. She stepped closer, lips tightening. "That is not ransomware," she muttered. "That's mimicware." No one heard her. But a moment later, the entire east firewall fell. The defense grid began cascading errors. "The hell is mimicware?" Theo barked as the room burst into motion. Tessa answered softly from the crowd, her voice carrying, "It copies your own protection protocols, evolves in real time, and uses them against you." Theo turned. "Who said that?" Lila raised her hand. "My mom. She used to do stuff." Grant was now on the phone, his voice sharp. "Tell defense we are experiencing technical recalibration delays. No, we do not need to abort, not yet." A technician called out, "We are hemorrhaging data packets from inside. Someone is injecting at the root." Another one added, "The AI is cannibalizing its own sandbox environment. It is rewriting baseline logic." The room fell still. Tessa was already dragging Lila toward the elevator. She should have walked away, but then she heard the lead engineer whisper to another, "We are losing the exfiltration node. The AI is... it is eating itself." Tessa stopped. She turned, and for the second time that week, she broke her own rule. "No," she said clearly. "It is not eating itself. It is mimicking packet behavior to fool your sensors. Your AI has entered loop mimicry. If you let it run another 90 seconds, it will learn how to shut down human override." The room froze. Grant's head whipped around. "Who are you?" Tessa stepped forward, eyes fierce. "Someone who warned you 2 weeks ago about holes in your sandbox. You ignored me." "I do not take system advice from school district freelancers," Grant snapped, furious. Lila winced. Tessa did not. "Then maybe take it from the woman who wrote the original loop architecture your company is misfiring right now." Silence. Theo's eyebrows shot up. "Wait, you are TM Monroe? From NetFortress? The recursion papers?" Grant stared at her like seeing a ghost. "You disappeared." "I had a baby," Tessa said flatly, "and you forgot I existed." Another system beeped. "The core AI just requested elevation," a technician whispered. "Lock the doors," Grant said. "Nobody leaves this building." Outside, dawn was breaking, but inside Helix Core it felt like the sun had vanished. The room trembled with urgency. Code flew across screens in unreadable bursts. Engineers shouted over one another, and red alerts blinked like heartbeat monitors for a dying patient. Grant Lexington stood paralyzed between fury and fear. Then, piercing through the chaos, came a small voice. "You should let my mom help," Lila said, calm as ever. "She hacks better than your whole floor." Several heads turned. Grant stared. Tessa sighed. "Lila." But the girl did not flinch. "You said, speak up when something matters. Well, this matters." Theo chuckled. "Kids got guts." Grant hesitated, his jaw locked. Then with a curt nod, he pointed to an unused terminal. He turned back. "Give her a station, read-only access. You have 5 minutes?" Tessa stepped forward, Her walk was unhurried, unbothered, unmistakably confident. She pulled a small bottle of sanitizer from her pocket and wiped the keyboard down, like a ritual. Then rolled up the sleeves of her hoodie, exposing delicate wrists and a smartwatch overloaded with custom mods. "I need a network diagnostic grid and override clearance to cross-map AI branches," she said. "No way," one engineer protested. "That is high clearance protocol." "I'm trying to save your job, dude," Tessa said flatly. "Move." She sat. Fingers flew. Everyone watched as her screen turned from chaos into clarity. She began isolating command lines, peeling back layers like an archaeologist unearthing digital bones. "Here," she murmured after only 2 minutes. "Neural fork? Someone built a ghost routine to mimic a debug script, probably an ex-employee who knew your architecture." She tapped furiously, eyes scanning. "Found the injection point. It is buried inside your sandbox cleaner. Ironically, auto-purge will trigger self-erasure and mask the breach if I do not isolate it right now." Grant leaned over her shoulder, stunned. "You are tracing live recursive logic in real time," he said. Tessa did not even glance at him. Kinda like talking to a toddler having a tantrum, except this toddler might crash a few satellites. One final command. A deep beep echoed. Systems slowed. "Local reroute initiated," the terminal announced. "External thread suspended. Time buffer extended. 3 hours." The room exhaled as one. 3 hours? Theo asked. "You just bought us 3 hours?" "Maybe less if the AI adapts faster than predicted," Tessa replied. Grant could not take his eyes off her. "Who are you?" he asked, almost breathless. She smirked, brushing a wisp of hair from her temple. "It's a port. Plus, maternity pants." A laugh escaped Theo's lips. Lila clapped once, like a proud coach on the sidelines. But before anyone could say another word, Tessa's face twisted. She clutched her abdomen, eyes wide. A small gasp escaped her lips. "Oh no," she whispered. "Not now." Everyone froze. She doubled over slightly, placing one hand on the desk, the other on her belly. Theo blinked. "Is that contraction?" Tessa gritted out. "Pretty strong one, too." Grant looked like someone had unplugged him from the grid. "Get her a medic." "No," she barked, straightening up, panting. "Not yet. There is still a neural residue in the deep kernel. If I go now, that AI finds a workaround and you lose every secure node on the East Coast." "But your water just broke," an intern whispered from the back. "Yeah," she snapped, sweat already blooming at her temple. "And if I do not stop this breach, a lot more than water is going to spill." Her voice cut through the tension like a blade. It was not a request, it was a declaration. She sat back down, placed both hands on the keyboard, and muttered to herself. Pushed through the pain, the glass-walled conference room boiled with arguments. "She is in active labor," a board member shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "This is not a crisis response. It is a liability circus." Another chimed in. "She has not even cleared staff. We are looking at breach of protocol, unauthorized access, and possible litigation. Evil got an MRAT scan aid with the new evil. She is not insured." Voices layered, louder, faster. "She is a hero," one brave intern mumbled, then quickly shrank in his chair. At the center of it all, Grant Lexington sat stone still. His elbows rested on the edge of the sleek black table, his eyes not on the board but on the live security feed, where Tessa Monroe, hair tied back, belly full term and contracting every few minutes, sat on a yoga ball, fingers flying across the keys. A cooling pack, pressed to her lower back, held in place with duct tape and engineering tape. She did not flinch when the pain came. She just adjusted her breathing, blinked once, and kept typing. Next to her sat her daughter, Lila, 10 years old, glasses slightly crooked, whispering instructions, fetching cables, relaying API responses from a side terminal. Grant rubbed his temples. Then came a voice behind him. "Hey boss," Theo said, strolling in like he was arriving for a birthday party, not a digital war zone. "Quick question. Grant sighed. If this is about snacks again... No. Just wondering, you really gonna bench Wonder Woman mid-battle? Grant turned. Theo leaned against the table, grinning, because last I checked she just saved $300 million and rewrote half your threat response matrix, all while in active labor. Half my board wants her escorted out for legal reasons, Grant said. And the other half? Still calculating the optics. Theo tilted his head, his tone softening. Grant, come on. You know what you saw. That woman is not just brilliant. She is driven by something even bigger than ego or ambition. She is protecting her kid's future in real time. Grant stared through the glass. I need her, he whispered. Theo nodded. Then go tell her that. Back in the command room, Tessa wiped her brow with the sleeve of her hoodie. Her breaths were getting shorter, sharper, but her hands? Steady. She entered the final sandbox pathing command and said aloud, Loopback initiated, one more wall up. That buys us another hour. Then she let out a slow hiss of breath as another contraction hit. Lila rushed over with a stopwatch and a cup of apple juice. You are at 7 minutes apart, Mom. Which means I am ahead of the attack curve, Tessa managed with a half smile. The door opened behind her. Grant walked in, no hesitation now. His voice was low but clear. You are either the biggest risk I have ever taken, he said, or the smartest. Tessa looked up at him, panting, her cheeks flushed, her hoodie damp at the collar. Maybe both, she said, then winced. Probably both. Grant knelt beside her, gently placing a second cooling pack under her knees. I cleared it with legal. Stay as long as you need. I will take the heat. She blinked. You trust me? He looked her straight in the eye. I trust results. And right now, you are the only firewall we have. Tessa nodded once, teeth clenched. Then let us finish this. The room felt as though it were shrinking. Fluorescent lights hummed above, servers pulsed in red alerts, and the air was thick with urgency. At the center, barefoot, trembling, and visibly in the final stage of labor, sat Tessa Monroe. Sweat beaded along her hairline. Her breath came in sharp, short bursts, her body rocking forward and back with each contraction. But her eyes remained locked on the screen. Lines of code streamed like lightning across her monitor. 2 minutes until full core breach. The rogue artificial intelligence had mutated, again, rewriting its own signature and hiding within the firmware loops. The existing protocol was useless now. There was no manual for what she was doing. This was improvisation at the highest level, while literally giving birth. Tessa, Grant said softly, crouching beside her, panic buried beneath his calm tone. We can stop. I can pull you out. She turned her head slowly, fire in her voice. You stop when you are pushing out a human and saving a satellite grid at the same time. Theo, hovering nearby with a pack of protein bars and 3 unused wet towels, swallowed nervously. Tessa's hands flew again, cracking out syntax like breath itself. Her voice was hoarse. I need that core trap built. 5 nested loops. I will route the logic. Theo? He jumped, yes. When I say enter, you hit send. Enter like the key or the metaphor. She shot him a death glare. The button, Theo. Oh, right. Copy that. Her back arched. A contraction hit. Stronger now. Full transition. She bent forward, biting down on the cuff of her sleeve, then came up gasping. 60 seconds, one engineer called from across the room. Grant gripped her shoulder. Breathe. You are almost there. Tessa let out a feral exhale. Her fingers trembled but moved. She whispered to herself. One final pass. Tighten the gate. Lock the mirrors. Her body began to shake, half from pain, half from adrenaline. The baby was coming. Leela stood nearby, wide-eyed but brave. She whispered, You can do this, Mom. You always do. Tessa smiled, even through the grimace. I love you, Lila Bean. Then her hands froze. It was time. Theo! she shouted, voice raw. Yes, he yelled, hands ready. Enter. Theo slammed the key. For one terrifying moment, nothing. Then, lockout proper initiated. Or, firewall reset complete. Reached terminated. A wave of sound hit the room. The alerts silenced. Green lights returned. Monitors stabilized. The digital war was over. The entire command center exhaled as one. Grant turned to Tessa, about to speak, when she let out a sharp cry and doubled over. Elena! Lila screamed, running forward. No, Tessa gasped, laughing through the pain. It is okay. I did it. Now it is the baby's turn. Within moments, medical staff, long prepared in a back room, rushed in. A portable stretcher appeared. Tessa was helped gently down. Her legs buckled, but she smiled. 10 minutes later, in a tech lab converted into an impromptu delivery bay, Tessa Monroe gave birth to a healthy, wailing baby girl. Tears streamed down Lila's cheeks as she clutched her mother's hand. Mom, you did both. Grant stood over them, speechless, before finally managing, she just delivered a baby and a cybersecurity miracle at the same time. Theo sniffled. I think I am going to cry, and I am not even the dad. Unless... Does fruit snack godfather count? Tessa let out a breathless laugh as she cradled the baby in her arms. Say hello to Aurora. Grant smiled. Fitting, named after the light that breaks through the dark. Tessa looked down at her newborn, and then up at her daughter. And with her voice barely above a whisper, she said, We just rewrote history, girls. The lights in the recovery room were soft. The chaos was over. Baby Aurora lay peacefully in a heated bassinet, and Lila, curled on a chair, dozed off beside her baby sister, one arm slung protectively over the railing. Tessa sat upright in her hospital bed, a blanket wrapped loosely around her shoulders, her face pale but radiant with a calm kind of power. Her hands, once trembling with exertion, now rested peacefully in her lap. Grant stood near the door, hesitant, almost unsure if he was interrupting something sacred. She noticed. You can come in, she said gently, her voice raw but warm. He took a step forward, looking at her like she was someone he had never seen before. I owe you more than thanks, he said. I owe you a damn explanation. Who are you, Tessa? She glanced toward her daughters, then turned back to him. I used to go by a different name, she said. In certain digital circles, I was called the Raven. He blinked. The Raven? As in the Raven? The one who black-boxed the Cayman breach protocol in under 12 hours? The one who built the encryption tunnel that even the Department of Defense could not crack? She nodded slowly. That was a long time ago. Grant sat down, stunned. Theo, who had snuck in with a fruit smoothie and a fresh pair of fuzzy socks, dropped both. You are that Raven? Dude, you made the National Security Agency cry. We used to study your packet logic in grad school like it was sacred text. Tessa smirked. I was 25. Hot-headed, reckless, living off caffeine and spite. I burned too bright and made too many enemies. She looked out the window for a long moment. Then I got pregnant, and suddenly I was not a legend. I was a liability. I had to choose, and I chose Lila. Not a single firm would touch me after I started showing. Too much baggage, they said, too many logistical complications, too many what-ifs. Her voice did not tremble, but it carried weight. Grant could not speak for a moment. He was looking not just at a woman who had saved his company and delivered a child simultaneously, but someone who had been erased by a world that claimed to prize brilliance, only when it came in a convenient, male, unencumbered package. You walked away from all of it? He finally asked. She nodded. I walked toward my daughter, and I would do it again. Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, just full. Then she added, more softly, but I never stopped thinking in code. You do not shut that part of your brain off. Grant sat forward. His tone was almost reverent, Tessa, why did you not say anything sooner? She gave a dry laugh. Would you have let a barefoot waitress in maternity pants run your cybersecurity breach if I introduced myself with that resume? He had to admit, probably not. Theo, still barefoot himself, threw his arms in the air. I have been telling you for years to hire someone with a personality. And a backbone. This woman hacked a satellite while in labor. I mean, come on. Grant chuckled, then turned back to her more serious. You are not just talented, he said, you are extraordinary. She met his eyes, and for a brief moment, there was no boardroom, no breach, no noise. Just mutual recognition. Thank you, she said, the words simple but sincere. They sat in the soft quiet, Aurora's tiny breaths rising in rhythm, Lila's sleepy hum drifting into the space. And for the first time in years, Tessa Monroe felt seen. Not as a risk. Not as a relic. But as who she had always been. A force of nature in human form. 3 days later, the boardroom looked nothing like the war zone it had been. There were no alarms, no screaming analysts, no lines of code tumbling across panic-lit screens. Instead, there was calm and coffee, and one very determined CEO pacing the glass floor in front of a presentation screen, though no slideshow was in sight. Across from him sat Tessa Monroe, hair in a messy bun, baby Aurora snoozing in a wrap across her chest. Her fingers tapped the armrest like she was still debugging a live attack. Grant cleared his throat. Let me say this plainly. I want to offer you a permanent position, full salary, full access, whatever title you want, and yes, stock options. A lot of them. Tessa raised one eyebrow. Because I bled on your servers and delivered a human on company time? Grant smiled. Because you are the best cybersecurity strategist I have ever seen. And because you see patterns before they exist. You are what this company needs. She leaned back, thoughtful. Lila sat nearby with Theo, trying to hack his smartwatch for fun and snacks. She was winning. Tessa's voice softened. I appreciate that. I really do. But I am not built for 9-to-5 meetings and executive retreats. Grant nodded, then do not be. She smiled. I want a flexible lead role, remote days when needed. I want to write the rules, not just follow them. I want time to build code and also build Legos with my kid. I want to pick up Lila when she has a bad day and not have to lie about a dentist appointment to do it. He sat forward, genuinely impressed. Done. She blinked. That is it? No negotiation? Grant shrugged. You already saved the company once. If this is how you stay, I will take it. Across the room, Theo gave a dramatic fist pump. Yes, finally. A boss who knows where the power button is. Tessa laughed. I did reroute your entire firewall from a yoga ball while crowning. That has to count for something. Grant cleared his throat again, this time a little more awkwardly. Also, I wanted to see if maybe you would want to get lunch sometime. Non-contractual, just charming. Tessa tilted her head, amused. Are you asking me out, Grant Lexington? His ears turned red. I am floating the idea. She smirked. Only if you promise not to go into labor halfway through the appetizer. He grinned. No guarantees, but I will try. They locked eyes, laughter playing between them like something that had always been waiting. Meanwhile, Leela held up Theo's smartwatch triumphantly. I changed your wake-up alarm to Baby Shark at maximum volume. Theo moaned. That child is a tiny menace. Tessa looked over proudly. That menace just earned herself a scholarship. The Helix Core Junior Engineering Mentorship Program starts next week. Lila gasped. Wait, seriously? Grant smiled. Seriously, we need minds like yours. Tessa pulled her daughter into a side hug. Aurora stirred in her sleep. Everything felt possible. Tessa turned back to Grant. Okay, lunch sounds good, but no talking about server loads or merger forecasts. He held up a hand. I solemnly swear to discuss only fries and favorite colors. She laughed again. The battle was over. a new story was just beginning. 3 months later, the Cyber Resilience Division at Helix Corps buzzed with life and babies. Tessa Monroe stood at the center of it all. Her nameplate did not read Chief Security Officer or Executive Director. It read, Firewall Moms, Founder and Lead Strategist. The name was her idea. The mission, to train and hire women, especially single mothers, returning to tech after life had interrupted. Flexible schedules, on-site childcare, real mentorship, no judgment. Saving the internet and raising legends, she would say with a wink, baby Aurora in one arm and a laptop in the other. At her side, always, was her 10-year-old daughter Lila. Now a regular around the Helix Corps offices, Lila had earned her own workstation, equipped with a purple keyboard, a soldering kit, and a rotating stash of snacks she claimed were bribery for her brain. In August, Lila stepped on stage at DEF CON Junior in Las Vegas, her pigtails bouncing and confidence high. Her presentation title appeared in bold. How I Helped My Mom Save the Internet While She Was in Labor. The audience erupted before she even began. She clicked to slide 1. Step 1. Ignore the grown-ups panicking. Step 2. Listen to mom. Step 3. Have a backup onesie ready. The crowd laughed. Cameras flashed. Grant watched from the front row, teary-eyed and full of pride. Back in Chicago, Theo had somehow become Lila's unofficial godfather. He taught her how to solder microcircuits, build Lego bots, and cheat at poker, only against billionaires, he claimed. Kid, he would say, tossing her a candy bar, if you can beat me at blackjack and breach my password, I will triple your allowance. He did both, twice. Tessa and Grant, meanwhile, built something slower, deeper. They had their first real date on a rooftop, in the rain, laptops open, debugging a legacy system while eating cold takeout. They shared jokes about VPNs and version control. They argued about firewall philosophy and movie soundtracks. They fell in love, quietly. In the spaces between strategy meetings and baby feedings, there were no grand gestures, just consistency. Trust, respect, long looks across coffee mugs, shared playlists, warm silence. When a tech blog wrote about their story, the headline read, The Mother of All Coders, How a Laboring Hacker Saved Helix Corps. The article went viral. Talk shows called, biopics were pitched. Tessa declined every one. I already have the best role, she said, kissing Aurora's head, and the best cast. Grant posted a single comment under the article. My firewall is secure. My heart? Not so much. That comment also went viral. Theo groaned. You are a CEO, Grant, not a romance novelist. But behind the sarcasm was something undeniable, something earned. At night, in their modest home filled with warmth and wires, Lila would look up and say, Mom, this feels like a good ending. Tessa would smile, kiss her forehead, and reply, Baby, this is just the beginning. And it was. The living room glowed in soft amber light, quiet except for the faint hum of baby Aurora's monitor. It was late, nearly midnight, but no one was tired. Tessa Monroe sat cross-legged on the floor, her laptop balanced on one knee, a half-built circuitry kit scattered around her. Lila lay beside her, doodling a diagram titled Firewall with Feelings. Across from them, Grant Lexington paced, visibly nervous for the first time in his very well-scheduled life. He cleared his throat. Can I, interrupt your mother-daughter genius hour? Tessa glanced up, raising an eyebrow. Only if it is urgent or emotional. Both, Grant replied. He walked over. In one hand was a velvet box. But in the other? A baby monitor. Tessa blinked. That better not be a metaphor. Grant knelt. Not perfectly, a little awkward. His tie was crooked and he still had code smudged on his wrist. I do not have a speech, he said, and I do not have a ring, because I already gave you the most permanent thing I could, a reason to trust me. He held up the baby monitor. I want in. On the whole system, the chaos, the joy, the bugs, the late-night updates. I do not want just the company, I want the family. Yours, ours. Tessa stared at him, then burst out laughing. A sharp, full-bellied laugh that startled the baby monitor into crackling static. You know, she said, wiping tears from her cheeks. Most people propose with diamonds. You bring firmware. Grant grinned. So, is that a yes? Behind them, Lila sat up fast, wide-eyed. Wait, is this like, real? Are we merging? Tessa nodded, still laughing. Lila ran to them and hugged them both at once, nearly toppling the proposal moment. Does this mean our firewall has 2 admins now? She asked. Grant laughed. Only if you promise not to override your bedtime. The 3 of them sat there, tangled in laughter and limbs as the baby monitor chirped softly beside them. Outside, the city lights blinked like 1,000 notifications, but inside, everything was still. Later they walked out to the rooftop where it had all begun months ago, under a night sky too big to hold their story. Tessa looked around and whispered, "This was not the life I planned." Grant took her hand. "But it is the one you built." Together they looked forward, toward a future no system could predict. Because they had built something stronger than firewalls, stronger than networks, stronger than fear. They had built trust. And trust, true, earned, battle-tested trust, was the code that held it all together. Not just the systems, but the love, the legacy, the second chance. If this love story touched your heart, do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more soul-stirring stories, emotional stories, and heartwarming stories just like this one. We love reading your comments, so tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Have you ever seen brilliance show up in unexpected places, or love grow from unlikely beginnings? Share your stories below. We cannot wait to hear them. Thank you for being part of this storytelling journey. See you in the next one.